Many of you may ask the question, why do we spend so much time talking about what is happening in North Carolina, what the Republicans are doing there? It is because what they are doing in North Carolina is setting the case for the rest of the country. Yesterday, the GOP-controlled legislature passed a new restrictive voter ID law. And folks, not only are they doing it in a lame duck session, they're doing it because they lose their supermajority in January because Democrats picked up seats on November 6th. Now, a supermajority means they can override the governor's veto. Come January, they will not be able to override the Democratic governor's veto. All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. Transitioning to the holiday season, this time we start thinking about giving and sharing. Sometimes the best gift that you can give someone is an opportunity that could potentially change their lives. That's why our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created an investment opportunity for the everyday investor. It involves legal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, we all know that legal marijuana has created one of the fastest growing industries in this country. We also know that crowdfunding makes it easy to be an early investor of an opportunity. Now, it's no brainer, folks. Here, this is very simple, but it gets even better. Transatlantic Real Estate is different, and they have a business model that is very simple to understand. They buy land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Now, did you hear that? You are investing in the landlord of a licensed marijuana farm in a high-growth market. Now, for a limited time, you can invest as little as $300 up to $10,000 before the company goes public. Now, here's some more good news. They have recently extended the offer, which means you still have time if you take action now. Keep in mind, you must complete and confirm your application to participate, so be sure to complete that process. Folks, don't spend all of your money over the holidays and end up with empty pockets. Instead, get a return on your investment. You could also consider making an investment for someone special. How's that for a holiday gift? To get started, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org for you to get in the game and do it today. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. Now, what also is happening there, talk about what is crazy, not content to keep African Americans and poor people and young folks from voting in North Carolina. These Republicans, what they have done is they are considering a bill that, listen to this, folks, that will require every county's election board to be chaired by a member of the party with the highest number of registered voters in odd number years and by a member of the party with the second highest number of registered voters in even numbered years. So in essence, they're trying to ensure the Republicans control the election boards. Sounds fair? It is not. Since North Carolina has more registered Democrats than Republicans, and since elections occur in even numbered years, Republicans would be in charge of every election board in every election year. Now, the continuing election fraud investigation in North Carolina's 9th Congressional District has gotten so bad that even the executive director of the state Republican Party thinks there might need to be a new election. But only, he says, if there are enough disputed votes that will change the outcome. Here's a fact. The law giving the State Board of Elections the right to call a new election does not require that. Now, the margin was under 1,000 votes. And so far, there have been more than 1,000 irregular ballots discovered. Today, Democratic candidate Dan McCready withdraws his concession, saying he thinks Republican Dan Harris knew about the fraud and bankrolled it. And Republican officials had early warnings of voting irregularities in North Carolina, but ignored them. I guess they don't care about the integrity of elections. I want to go to our panel. Dr. Greg Carr, Chair of Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Teresa Lundy, she's the founder of TML Communications. Eugene Craig, CEO of the Eugene Craig Organization. All right, folks, let's get right into it. When you look at what is happening here, again, to somehow play this game of even numbered years, odd number years, that's who chairs it. I mean, they are blatant. Republicans are blatant, Greg, in North Carolina with what they're doing. And what's amazing to me is all of a sudden national media is paying attention because of what's happening in Wisconsin. The Republicans have been doing this in North Carolina since 2008, when massive black turnout led to Barack Obama winning that state in the presidential election.
Absolutely. And they've been planning it for much longer with billionaires like Robert Mercer and the Koch brothers. The GOP is the HIV of the American body politic. They're a permanent virus. They can only be suppressed, but the only way you suppress them is by overwhelming them in numbers. What they've piloted in North Carolina and begun to get away with in the previous election cycle is trying to maintain power. They don't care about democracy, they care about rule. And this odd year, even year business that you just described is Exhibit A. What we saw last night with the all-night the all-night legislative move in Wisconsin, what we're seeing in Michigan, North Carolina is their template. And they plan these things through ALEC. They've been doing this. And so if they get away with this, brother, you know, it's got to go to the courts. And then we see why elections matter at the federal level, because they're going to try to run this through the federal courts and have their fascists back it with the stench of their illegal reading of the Constitution.
Teresa, when you look at what's going on here, I mean, to show people how really evil this is, they don't care. I mean, they of course stripped the governor of powers in the last term. What they're doing here is they're basically saying to the voters, we don't care what you decide. We don't care how you decide it. We're going to essentially rig elections in our favor. This is election rigging
at its finest. And so what we're seeing right now is the GOP is in a fluxure of trying to figure out what to do next. As we have 2020 come up, I think everybody now is at the basis of strategy and what they need to do to make sure African Americans and other minority communities are not being hurt. As we saw, this is one tactic that I know that the discussion has been going on with a lot of political operatives in terms of what states we need to identify in order to silence some of that messaging and also try to figure out new strategies. But again, 2020 is right around the corner, and I think what we're seeing right now is a turning point for some of these districts.
Bottom line, Eugene, what Democrats should do, Democrats should be hell-bent on swinging every possible way. This is why you cannot ignore any small little thing. This is why you can't just treat them with respect, because what we're seeing in North Carolina, what we're seeing in Wisconsin, what we're seeing in Michigan is that Republicans are not caring about democracy. They're not caring about the will of the voters. This is a naked power grab.
Absolutely, I agree 100% with you. And as the saying goes, power can cease to nothing except, a bigger power. And that's what's going on here with these Republicans and these select states and a couple other states. Now, particularly in North Carolina, I think it's very rich that, they passed a voter ID law during essentially a lame duck session when, you literally have Republicans committing voter fraud, which, folk have been ringing the bell on for the last 10 years and now gone extremely silent, to the point where the executive director that ousted the first black chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party is now out, talking about a potential new election.
The thing here that also I think is important for people to understand is that what we're seeing, Greg, we're seeing black folks who are moving back to the South in significant numbers. And what is happening is these Republicans are scared to death of this kind of turnout. And so they are trying their best to somehow rig the election using legal practices. But the reality is Democrats should be trying to use every legal instrument to stop them in the courts. But unfortunately, that takes a lot of time. And then they don't always rule, saying that, well, we can't change a district. Like, for instance, the court said, hey, we need to change these districts. We don't want to change it with the election already underway.
That's right. North Carolina is a great example. As you say, the North Carolina Supreme Court, which is elected statewide, currently has a 4-3 Democratic majority. While they're technically nonpartisan, Wisconsin is a 4-3 Republican majority. But they can count. And this, make no mistake about it, ALEC, the American Legislative Executive Council, has been coordinating this at the federal level as well. So what you see is, as they look at these numbers, we're winning the local races. You're going to talk, of course, to the new mayor-elect of Little Rock, Birmingham. Same campaign folks that helped Randall Wolford in Birmingham helped this brother in Little Rock. You're seeing it, the power begin to emerge at the local levels, but they're trying to game this system. If they can get it past 2020, as Teresa said, because that's when the federal census is going to be had. And, you know, we just came out of our trial now with Wilbur Ross and them trying to game the census with this citizenship question so that they can get these numbers counted. And then at the state level, if you can gerrymander correctly, you can hold on to power even after folks have replaced some of these legislators. They are coordinating at the state, federal, and local level. But, yeah, they can count just like we can, but we need to be able to count and then go out and make that count mean something with votes.
I simply want our people to understand why I have been focusing on North Carolina for the past 8 years. On Washington Watch, News One Now, and now Roland Martin Unfiltered. And I'm glad to see national media finally wake the hell up because this is why you've got to have platforms like this, because what they've been doing is focusing on D.C. Anything Trump says, any comment that he makes, but this issue is important. Now,